Hello everybody, today we're going to be going over your potential tropical storm Isaias, and I'm going to be giving you an update on what is currently going on with Isaias or Invest 92L. In the next coming hours, it's probably going to be named to tropical storm. They've already found sustained winds at the surface of tropical storm force wind speeds from a buoy that was offshore of the Caribbean, and that actually picked up winds of 35 knots, which again is more than what is needed to have a tropical storm. So they did find tropical storm force wind speeds, and over the next coming hours, it's probably going to be named Tropical Storm Isaias. So definitely, after you watch this video, definitely make sure that you are constantly checking the National Hurricane Center's page because they will be updating this storm. Now, here is the current National Weather Service page. We have heat advisories all the way from Maine to South Carolina, and then we also have some flood watches just scattered throughout the central part of the country. We also have some red flag warnings and heat advisories for the Northwest, and excessive heat warnings for portions of the southwestern United States. Now, here is current Invest 92L and where it's put on the National Hurricane Center's 5-day graphical outlook. They have an 80% chance of developing within the next 48 hours, and within the next 5 days, a 90% chance. This red shaded area now includes all of Puerto Rico and most of the eastern half of the Dominican Republic, and that will most likely be expanded even further west and north as we get throughout the day today, and also as we go into tomorrow. Now, here is the Eastern Pacific. We also have another disturbance. We have a 10% chance of this one developing within the next 48 hours and the next 5 days. A very low chance of this one developing. And then here is Tropical Storm Douglas, which was before a Category 4, weakened as it moves across the Hawaiian Islands. And now it's offshore and not really impacting land too much. Now, here currently is where Douglas is. It's at 23.8 degrees north by 165.7 degrees west. We have maximum sustained winds of about 45 knots, and its minimum central pressure is at about 1,002 millibars. Now, here is your current outlook from the National Hurricane Center. They're keeping this as a tropical storm all the way until Tuesday. I'll also have my personal cone of uncertainty and intensity forecast for potential tropical storm Isaias or currently Invest 92L. Again, we have those tropical storm warnings and watches in effect for the islands northwest of Hawaii. It's going to weaken to a tropical depression by Wednesday morning, and then it should stay a tropical depression as it moves past the international dateline. Now, here is your probabilities of seeing tropical storm force wind speeds, and we do have nearly 100% chance of sustaining them, but as you go further on, it's more likely that they kind of drop off to tropical depression force wind speeds. Now, here is your 58 mile per hour wind speed probabilities, and again, we currently have those wind speeds, and they're going to stay for just a little bit, and then they're going to drastically decrease in potential. Now, here is your model track guidance, and again, they're gonna move westward and then curve straight northward, it looks like currently. Now, here is your intensity guidance, currently right at 45 knots, and it's going to be weakening within the next 12 to 36 hours to a tropical depression. Now, let's start talking about Invest 92L, and they actually updated this. Now they have found gusts of 85 knots, or 45 knots, excuse me there. So gusts of 45 knots, sustained winds of 35 knots. Now here's it on the surface plot, and we have it's currently at 13.5 degrees north, 52.8 degrees west, with a minimum central pressure of about 1,007 millibars. This has really intensified since yesterday when I made my video. Yesterday, I believe it was at about 25 knots sustained, and they couldn't find out what the gusts were because they didn't have too many plots down there. But this storm has come close to this buoy that's currently offshore right here, and that is actually the one that has been recording this 35 knot winds and also the 45 knot gusts. They're going to be bringing some aircraft recon into the storm by 2 p.m. today Eastern time, so I won't be able to make a video by that time, but by tomorrow I'll be discussing what they found in the aircraft recon, and by tomorrow we could be talking about our next named storm potentially. Now, here is your model tracks for this storm, and they are bringing this further north of the Caribbean, so they have actually trended further north, and also they've trended westward. So now instead of an off-to-shore system, it looks like areas over the southeast coast and the mid-Atlantic could be impacted with some gusty winds and rainfall out of this storm. And then parts of the northeast, that's really a toss-up whether it can really, the storm can really move close enough to shore and still impact those regions. We'll have to see about that. But right now, the southeast coast is expecting impacts from this storm. Now, here is the GFS Ensemble Models, and this is the American Ensemble Models, and they are showing a very strong storm moving up the coast and then kind of clipping Cape Hatteras in North Carolina and then moving up the coast, hitting parts of southeastern New England and then curving back around and hitting southeastern Canada and Nova Scotia and that region right there. So that would really be your current track. This is the American Ensemble Models, which were the ones that were trending further to the east. Now they've been trending further to the west, and now they're much closer to shore. Now here is the Canadian Ensemble Models, and they are showing even further west track where this would be on land for a few hours and then it would come back offshore, and this would have a more direct impact for the northeast coast, but it would be a weaker storm because it would move over land. Now here is your intensity guidance, and this again has also intensified since yesterday because of those 35 knot wind speeds they found. So currently it is at tropical storm force, but just the National Hurricane Center hasn't recognized it as a tropical storm yet. I'm guessing they're gonna do that once they get the aircraft recon in, just to kind of make sure that that wasn't just a false report or anything. So they're gonna go make sure it is a tropical storm, get some readings from there, and then I'll be able to make a video by tomorrow talking about what they found. Now it is gonna stay as a tropical storm for most of its life, but then potentially within the 72 to a 120 hour time frame, you could see a gradual increase in its wind speeds to maybe a low end category 1 speed. And then as it moves up the east coast, this would be the time frame that it's moving up the east coast, you see some of these models actually pointing northward, which would indicate that it's continuing to strengthen. So potentially as it's moving up the east coast, it could still be strengthening. That would be only if it's staying far enough offshore that it's not interacting with land too much. Now here are some of your environmental conditions that we need for this storm to really get going. Now we have very, very warm sea surface temperatures, which are above average. I'll show you the anomalies in just 1 second, but we have sea surface temperatures, actual sea surface temperatures of about 80 to 90 degrees throughout the track of this, all the way up into the mid-Atlantic coast. Once you get into the New England coast, that's where you're somewhere between about 22 and 24 degrees until you hit the Gulf of Maine and you start to get into southeast Canada. Then the waters really start to cool down. But for most of its track, it's going to stay in those very favorable waters. 80 Fahrenheit or 26 degrees Celsius or warmer water are very favorable for a hurricane or a tropical storm to be sustained, and we have that all the way up until New Jersey, and then it starts to get a little bit colder, but still it would be able to sustain a tropical storm or maybe even a low-end hurricane with these types of sea surface temperatures. Now here are your anomalies for this, and we have well above average sea surface temperatures of about anywhere from about 2 to 5 degrees Celsius above normal, especially for the East Coast region, and that would be anywhere from about 4 to about 8 or 9 degrees Fahrenheit above normal in terms of your sea surface temperatures. So, for example, if you live somewhere along the Mid-Atlantic coast, for example, and your average sea surface temperature is around 70 or 75 degrees, now you're most likely experiencing 80 to 85 degree sea surface temperatures, which can greatly enhance the probability that you see a decent storm move up the east coast, which is something that's really going to help fuel this hurricane season and really going to help it get going. Now, here is your ocean heat content, and again, we have plentiful amounts here along east and north of the Caribbean, and moving up the east coast. We do have some values between 50 to maybe even 100 for those values of ocean heat content. So very, very high ocean heat content throughout the Atlantic currently. Now, Let's start looking at some model guidance, and then we'll get into my forecast in just one moment. Here is the probability of seeing tropical depression wind speeds from the European ensemble models. They keep this at a very high chance as it moves throughout the Caribbean, and then the chances start to go a little bit down just because some models are bringing this into the Gulf. Most models, though, are bringing this up the East Coast. It starts to impact Florida with a about 45 to about 65% chance of seeing tropical storm or tropical depression wind speeds, and then you start to see it moves up the East Coast. Now, this area to the north is not tropical, so this will most likely not be any type of storm that you see, but this area right here, this is the tropical entity that we're talking about. So you have to really, it's kind of hard to tell, mainly because of this non-tropical entity right here, but you can kind of see that this starts to move northward, and you're sustaining that 20 to 40% chance of seeing tropical depression wind speeds, and this is gonna go up because the models will increase their certainty as they go in with time. Now, here is it continues to move up the East Coast, and it continues to move further north, and at one point the entire East Coast pretty much has a chance of seeing tropical depression wind speeds out of this storm. Now, let's start looking at the chance of tropical storm wind speeds, and we have a decent chance. This should be near 100%. This is from the overnight run, so they still didn't have the 35 knot information that we have now. So the newest run will probably have about 100% chance because, of course, they did find and record some tropical storm force wind speeds. Now, it starts to move further north and northwest by Sunday. Here's by Monday, and then here is by Tuesday. Again, the entire East Coast has a probability of seeing tropical storm wind speeds, especially there for South and North Carolina, as well as Virginia, Maryland, and Delaware, and then potentially into the Northeast coast. We'll still have to see about that, and that is probably the most undecided part of this forecast. Now, here's one final frame of this, and then here is my personal cone of uncertainty track, and this cone has gotten wider, especially at the tail end of this. Once you get to about Cuba and Florida, that's when it really starts to widen, because we do have the probability or a chance that this moves into the Gulf. Although a low chance, I cannot rule it out at this point because of just where the models have gone with this. A couple days ago, they were well out to sea. You wouldn't even see anything. Now they're bringing this very close to the coast, and who knows if this continues to trend westward, maybe it ends up in the Gulf of Mexico, and that has been something that, for example, the GFS and the European model have been trending to do. The ensembles have not been doing that, and the main models have not been doing that. So we'll still have to see a lot of different possibilities with this, but pretty much anywhere, especially in the northern Caribbean, if you live in Puerto Rico and the eastern Dominican Republic, you probably have the best chance currently, and also for the Bahamas and parts of southern Florida, that's really where you have a good shot. Cuba and also Haiti, they're really not as good of a shot of seeing those tropical storm impacts. Now, here is my intensity forecast for this. It's going to stay as a tropical storm, or at least stay with tropical storm force wind speeds all the way as it reaches Category 1 status. I do think it will be a brief Category 1, then dip down as it starts to impact probably parts of southern Florida into the Bahamas, and then I think it'll start weakening as it starts to get past that landmass and it starts to stay offshore a little bit, and it might, who knows, maybe it becomes a Category 1 again and it reattains Category 1 status. So that would definitely be something very, very interesting to see. I'll be keeping you guys updated. Most likely I'll have another video by tomorrow. Most likely, if they do update this to a tropical storm, I'll definitely have an update for you guys regarding this new storm. Now, also, I do want to thank you guys for all the support I've been receiving recently. I believe we grew something like 125 subscribers or so within the last 30 days. So I just really want to thank you guys, and I want to say hi to everybody new who has found my channel. So really appreciating the support, and definitely keep it up, and I'll be continuing to put out these daily videos. Now, that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Please consider subscribing, leaving a like, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.